Chapter 7. Justice. Kolob and his warriors remained on the road to the New Rome. That evening, they slept in 3 adjoining hotel rooms. Kolob left his room and walked to the nearby wooded area to study the Urim and Thummim. It glowed, beckoning him. Kolob found a safe and secluded site. He knelt on his knees and placed the Urim and Thummim in his hands, cupped in front of him. Its radiance lit up the darkness, framing his strong build and long hair. When Kolob resided in the higher quadrants of heaven, he was almost all-knowing. Once he crossed the veil to earth, this knowledge grew dim. He attained information through the glowing stone that otherwise he would know in heaven. Tonight the stone was specific. There were beings from other universes that had infiltrated Earth's atmosphere and had been here for a multitude of decades. Kolob's next mission was to draw out these beings. They had been studying the Earth for 2,000 years. Earth was the only planet in the universes that destroyed God's Son. Other planets embraced the Savior and loved him, and he grew old among them. The foreigners Kolob was seeking were made in the image of their environment, which was similar to man and plant. Earth was the chosen planet of this universe. Humans were exactly in the image of God and carried his divine mark on their hearts. Humans were beloved and worshipped by many in the universe. The foreigners had come to study the divine race of man and determine why humans were blessed with so much promise and could crumble with corruption, murder, and fornication. These beings were known as Terima in the realms of heaven. When they grew to the age of 1,000 they did not die. They crossed over from flesh to spirit in a twinkle of the eye. Their flesh did not rot. It evaporated. They looked like a solid form but were not. Their bodies were fluid and changeable to the environment, and they were organic. If a human on earth were to touch their skin it would feel like water rushing through their fingers. Terima were friendly and wise spirit souls who loved God, though they were disobedient to his laws in seeking outside their own universe. They sought the true religion of God on earth and had not discovered it. The Terima also wanted the cross, on which the Savior was crucified by men. If they could attain the cross, or fragments thereof, they would pulverize it, put it into a sacred ointment and drink it, which would give them the same mark on their hearts as man. This was most coveted by all foreigners, and they were staying until they found it. The Terima had recruited fallen angels to walk the earth and seek this treasure for them. There were other foreigners from different universes that were also forbidden to come to Earth's atmosphere. They defied God's laws and had come to interbreed with man to make their race in God's image. They were a menace to man. Kolob was to seek out their main ship and convince them to leave or the warriors would destroy them. Kolob returned to the group as they slept. He lay on the queen-size bed to rest for a few hours, knowing their task would be difficult. In the morning, they were to travel south to the Gulf of Mexico. After breakfast, the warriors drove through the outskirts of town. Ham suddenly slammed on the brakes. The car came to a screeching halt. Wiend, driving behind, almost rammed into them. Wiend, livid, jumped out of his car. "What's wrong with you? You almost killed us." Kolob got out of the passenger side and approached Ham. He sat solemn in the front seat of the car. "He is having a vision, let him be," Nickel whispered. Ham got out of the car and stood in the middle of the road. He locked on to his senses of telepathic energy and turned to Kolob. "A child is crying out for help." Kolob told him to go and they would follow. Kolob and Wiend traveled on foot through grasslands trailing behind Ham. They came upon a trailer. Ham ran up the trailer's steps and kicked the door in, off its hinges. The trailer was filthy. Flies were everywhere. A bald, thin man with no front teeth came out from the only bedroom with a pistol, waving it at Ham. Kolob held up his staff. The man shot around at Ham. The bullets ricocheted off the staff. Ham grabbed the gun and pushed past the spindly old man and shoved him into the dirty dishes and empty alcohol bottles on the counter. He opened the door in the back of the trailer and found a gruesome sight. A young boy was tied to the bedpost in his own urine, weeping as the old man had been burning him with cigarettes all over his body. Weent was standing behind Ham. Ham closed the bedroom door. He knew Weent's temper. Ham smiled at the child, who looked the age of 7. He gently untied the boy and held him tight, telling him that he was safe now and not to fear. The boy relaxed in the warrior's arms. Kalob and Weent had the strangest sensation. It was pure anger. The darkness and evil in the bald man permeated out of every pore of his alcohol-ridden body. They knew this was not his first torture victim. Nickel pulled up in the car and entered the trailer. She suggested that they call the authorities and of the laws of this world lay judgment on him, rather than Weent snapping his neck. In the dilapidated back room, Ham calmed the boy, cleaned and dressed him. Ham placed a salve on his burns and other wounds. Kalob sent Weent and Nickel back to get the other car. Ham brought the boy out of the room. Kalob blocked the boy's view from seeing his abuser. Kalob pushed the filthy old man into one of his orange velvet chairs and bound his hands and feet. Kalob outstretched his hands in front of the man, and in midair appeared a translucent screen for the man to view. Kalob told the man, "Your evil doings will be your judgment. Here are all your victims. You will feel all their pains that you have caused even unto their murder. You will come to understand what Satan has in store for you, for hell's eternity will welcome you in. Your government will banish you to a jail for a time, and then they will see all your evil and commit you to death. Shmat, an evil priest, will be your guide after your death. He will torture your soul. This will be your penance until the judgment of man by God Jehovah. Watch and feel the broken commandment of sins you have committed." Kalob turned and exited the trailer. He was too pure to view such evil. Nickel and Weent pulled up to the trailer. The boy stopped his weeping and held tight on to Ham. Kalob and Ham laid hands on the young boy's head to bless his wounds and heal his mind. Kalob told the child that he was loved by God and he would heal him. Kalob ended the blessing when he felt a peace in the boy. They were going to take him to the police station in town so he could be reunited with his parents. As they left, Weent smiled when he heard the old man screaming in the trailer. The filthy man felt each torment he preyed upon his victims, which counted in the dozens. Amanda and Seth remained silent in the back seat of the car as they heard the power of God and his judgment on the wicked. The warriors pulled up in front of the police building. Ham walked the boy into the police station and told him to not fear. He would never be taken again. The boy looked up at Ham and asked in a sweet voice, "Are you a superhero?" Ham smiled and crouched down to the boy's level and said quietly, "I am God's warrior." He held the boy in his strong arms and told him to walk up to that nice man at the desk and give him his name. They have been looking for him. The boy hesitated but did so. The boy's presence caused an eruption in the police station. They had been looking for him for a week, and presumed he was dead. The man attending the desk, now at the boy's side and surrounded by all police in the station, said, "Who brought you here?" The boy turned to point at Ham, but he was gone. The boy looked back to the officer and said, "God's warriors saved me and brought me here." Kalob, Weent, Nickel, Seth, and Amanda drove together and felt good at the hand of God saving an innocent spirit, and the justice of torment for the perpetrator. They headed south toward the ocean. Kalob was in search of the foreigners. The Tarima resided in their crafts, deep in the Gulf of Mexico. The warriors were instructed by the Urim and Thummim to rent a small yacht and head south. Harrison, New York. The police fingerprinted the house. The most damage was done to the study. The secret room was turned inside out by the intruders. The safe in the room defied access to the robbers. The intruders had blowtorched the safe in an attempt to open it. All the DVDs and discs were gone, a few old books were taken, and Adam's laptop was missing. An FBI agent appeared through the front door as the family huddled together at the intrusion of the property. "Mr. Jate Dayton, may I have a word with you?" Jate followed the FBI agent out to the back deck. "I am a friend of your father's. He confided in me a great deal." "Did they find the room in the study?" "Yes." "Sorry, I didn't catch your name." "Agent Vandegraff. I first met your father in Rome on one of my many visits to the Vatican. We had a great time and became friends. Show me to the room in the office." "Sure." The police were thinning out. Jate and the agent walked into the study. He immediately went into the small room and inspected what was left. Once all the police had left, Agent Vandegraff stayed behind and returned to Jate, who went back downstairs to be with his kids. Centeni was fuming that this had happened twice to them. Vandegraff talked with the family about a few experiences he had with Dayton Sr., trying to lighten the mood. "Your father, Jate, had an amazing mind. I am here for one reason. I think it's time we talk honestly. Dayton, what everyone called him, was hired by the Vatican to examine ancient scrolls. He also knew and studied someone very important to the Vatican. This person is very powerful, wealthy, and extremely dangerous. I know Dayton's desires for you all, and that is to remain safe. I suggest you take what you want from this house and go back home." He would have wanted that. Centeni, disturbed, clicked into lawyer mode. "What a minute. You're to tell me all this is over a few old papyruses that some rich guy wants? That makes no sense, none at all. There is so much more to this, and I think you have the answers, Mr. Vandegraff, he said with a chuckle. "I see Dayton and you. No, I don't have all the answers, but I do have a few. Come upstairs. I will show you something." In the study, Vandegraff took them to the opposite side of the study of the secret room. He felt along the wall, then stopped and smiled. "Jate, come here, feel this." Jate ran his hand on the wall and felt a spot that had certain warmth. "That's it." "That's what?" "I feel a warm area." "Exactly. Now knock 3 times, pause, then knock 4 times, pause, then knock again 7 times, and the magic of Dayton will be revealed." Jake dropped his hand from the wall. "This is ridiculous." Adam approached his dad's side and felt for the warm spot on the wall. Once he found it, he knocked 3 times, and continued 4 knocks, then the final 7. They waited. They heard clinking like metal dominoes falling in unison in the wall. Suddenly a vacuum-sealed room behind the other bookcase releasing vaulted air as the hidden room exhaled. It opened up. "See, the magic. Dayton knew the secret room you found would be easy to discover after his death, and if someone was following you they would do exactly what they did and ransack the place and call it good. Little did you know that room is nothing compared to this room. Centeni, lead the way." Centeni unfolded her arms and approached the bookcase, opening it wide. Adam and Jate followed behind her and they entered a room, which was 6 by 6 feet. The walls were of brick and the floor cement. Gold bars lined one wall up to Jate's waist. Baskets were filled with gold trinkets and elegant stones. 2 gold books lay in a glass cabinet. Upon a hand-crafted thick shelf were cubby holes that measured 6 by 6 inches, 4 dozen in count. Some had what appeared to be rolled-up scrolls, and some had little statuettes of calves, crystal skulls, several beehives, too many to categorize. Fascinating. It's grandfather's treasure. Centeni gasped at the beauty of the valuables. There was a reverence that fell upon the room as they admired the wealth of it all. "Here, Jate, your father wanted you to watch this DVD when you got home. I suggest that you pack all this up and head back. The guys that broke in tonight will come back to crack the safe. The idiots tried to use a blowtorch to open it and all they needed was a crowbar." "What's in it?" Adam asked. "Nothing much. Just some relics from Dayton's travels to Ethiopia. They actually are cursed figures to anyone that touched them. Your grandfather was a prankster. Good thing we didn't find the combination, Dad." So what is the meaning of the rubber wall? Jate walked Agent Vandegraff over to the flexible wall. He put his hand on the location and pushed in with ease. Huh? I didn't know. The agent felt the rubber area. He inspected it closer as he reached into his dark blue suit jacket. He took out an Eagle Scout knife and snapped it open, exposing the silver blade. Wait, Centeni said. What if it's a trick also, from Grandpa? I don't need bad luck the rest of my life. He put the knife away. In Dayton's room you will find 5 black suitcases specially made to place the bars in snugly, and all the ancient scrolls and gold plates. If you leave tonight, the perpetrators will think they scared you off and leave you alone. No one will ever know of this room. Never mention this to anyone. Come on, Adam, let's get those suitcases. Jake took a deep breath and released it. This was so out of his realm. All the secrets, treasure and lies overwhelmed him. Centeni could see her father's frustration. Dad, he's right, we need to leave. Jake nodded his head in agreement and they packed up all the treasures. When they thought they had it all, Vandegraff stopped them. Wait, he said, there's one more thing. This is something more important than all the gold in the world. The agent went back into the bricked room and felt the brick wall trying to find just the right one. Damn, I can't remember which brick to push. Well hell, come on guys and help me push all of them, one will move. There's more. Centeni asked. Adam was the lucky one who found the brick that moved inward, then to one side, exposing a large, metal box. The contents in this box will change Christianity as we know it. This is so valuable it has no dollar amount that could possibly meet the importance. Keep it hidden until the day I tell you to open it. Adam, your grandfather wanted me to give you these. Vandegraff threw Adam the keys to the Jaguar Mark 7 sedan. Adam looked to his father for approval. Sweet. Vandegraff bid farewell after all of the suitcases were packed. He promised he would stay in touch and keep an eye on the house. Jake backed the car into the garage and they loaded their personal suitcases and the extra cases. Adam would drive his new antique sports car to Maine. Centeni and Jate would drive the rental packed full of suitcases. They secured the second bookcase closed and cleaned up the first secret room. Centeni took all the photos from the walls and around the home and packed them into Adam's car along with the metal box which they put in the spare tire area. They were all edgy and nervous carrying such treasures on a simple road trip to Maine. They decided to drive straight through, an 8-hour drive. Jate and Centeni pulled up to the 20th century colonial-style home on Booth Bay Harbor, to a quaint, white, 2-story home, nestled on the harbor. The time was 3:33 am. Adam had arrived a half-hour earlier and was sound asleep in the Jaguar. Wake up. Centeni knocked on his driver's window, scaring the life out of Adam. Jake popped the trunk of the rental and started unloading the suitcases. They parked about 20 yards away from the home. A grassy dirt path led them to the side door. Jate unlocked the door and rolled in 2 of the black, upright suitcases. Adam and Centeni followed behind, placing them in the foyer. It was about 4 am. With the cars unloaded, Centeni went upstairs. She didn't undress. She just climbed onto her queen-size bed, exhausted. Adam slept in his favorite spot, the glass-covered sun deck that wrapped around the home, facing the water. He was out cold on the oversized tan couch. Jate walked over to the old mahogany island in the foyer next to the staircase. Mahogany spindles extended to the ceiling. In this particular island Jate had discovered, while working on the electrical outlets, that it was hollow, perfect for secret storage. The end cap of the island had rounded shelves for knickknacks. He utilized this as an opening for a safe he placed inside the island where he ended up storing his cash. After he lost a majority of his retirement in the economic crash, he decided the only financial institute he could trust was his own. He bent down and slid the end cap shelving open. It exposed the safe within the wood island. He twisted the dial, right 22, left 9 and right 14, and it snapped open. He spent the next hour carefully placing the metal box and gold bricks one by one. Jate stacked them and the gold plates in last. He moved his bundles of cash out in the front for easy access. The scrolls would have to wait. He closed the safe and secured the shelf end cap. He took the empty suitcases and placed them in the hall closet next to the kitchen. He finally went upstairs and didn't even remember climbing under the covers of his bed. Late in the afternoon, Jate aroused to find Adam and Centennial out by the water inlet on the rocks. He grabbed a cup of coffee and joined them. Chapter 8. Gulf of Mexico. The 50-foot yacht sailed calmly into the watery horizon. Amanda and Seth stayed with the cars at the beach front. The warriors relied on the global compass and Urim and Thummim. Kalob, under deck sitting on the edge of his bunk, opened the Urim and Thummim to read the signal as it glowed in a tan hue. It appeared to be giving nautical circumferences to lead them to the unwelcome intruders from another universe. "Why are they here in the ocean?" Kalob asked the Urim and Thummim. He did not receive an immediate response. Those that resided in other universes were far more intelligent than humans, but were denied access to their superior. These foreigners used their highly developed intelligence on their planet and reveled in equality with God. They presumed themselves almost supreme to him. God granted them no promise for exaltation, no promise of glory in heaven. This type of foreigner had developed thin bodies. Their heads were abnormally large. Intelligence was all they knew, no love, no joy, no laughter, no humanitarianism. They jealously observed inadequate humans on Earth. They had come to Earth to steal mankind. They sought to create a mixed race so their worlds would have the same hope of exaltation as Earth. Kalob was commanded to communicate with them telepathically. Their language was far too superior for him to understand verbally. They spoke in numbers and electronic sounds. Telepathic communication with the foreigners would bring their language to the receiver's level of understanding. The Urim and Thummim finally released an answer to Kalob's question. These foreigners were water dwellers who had come from Bablakri, a universe far off, one of the farthest from Earth's universe. They were vicious and had been coming to Earth's atmosphere for the last 100 years to watch it slowly destruct. These dwellers were unbalanced in their thinking and had dissected animals and even humans, causing unexplained mutilations. The water dwellers were scientists of their race, but their souls were cold. God called upon the warriors to send these dwellers back to their universes or destroy them. They were not welcome here. Kalob believed they would interfere with God's biblical plan. Mankind had suspected there were beings from other planets watching, but the evidence was sparse and mostly contained by governments. After a day at sea, their coordinates put them near the site of the underwater dwellers. The yacht closed on the bearings. Ham grew restless. He heard strange sounds that made no sense to him, and the noise of it became unbearable. Ham's head throbbed more with each nautical mile closer to the water dwellers. He was relieved from the upper deck and commanded by Kalob to go below deck and rest. Wient was curious about the beings from another universe. Nichols' people, even though she was a reincarnate warrior of an outside universe, were godlike and compatible to Earth's. She watched the waters as they picked up speed. The clouds started to gather in strange lenticular formations. She called to Kalob to come and look at the sky. It grew to a blackish purple and the clouds grew and whirled around them. Wient could tell that these were not clouds, but minute mechanical droplets designed to gather information to transmit back to the ships that lay underwater, taking the formation of elongated clouds. The water began to roll and wave. Everyone on deck held on as the rains began. Kalob took his staff and made his way to the bow of the yacht. The droplets pounded like pellets, tearing at their clothes and skin. Nickel had her breastplate on. The rains could not penetrate it and bounced away from her like BB pellets. She held her holy arrows ready, with one hand grasping the ship's railing. Ham, holding his head as the sounds pierced his brain, crawled back up to the upper deck where the other warriors were fighting the weather. We grabbed hold of him. The boat was bouncing in the water like a toy. Suddenly a light broke through the whirling clouds. It grew brighter and descended from the skies. It shone on the deck of the yacht, examining each warrior carefully, and then dimmed. A silhouette of a woman came through the clouds and flew near the yacht. It was Talula. The rains stopped. Ham and we welcomed their friend, Ham holding her close as a deafening sonic blast came out of the waters. Kalob raised his staff and uttered the adamonic words of God's blessing to calm the waters. In seconds, the storm faded and the waters became smooth as glass. Ham clutched his head once again with his hands. His senses were overwhelmed and the pain eroded all his abilities. Talula knelt down and grabbed one of his hands and placed it on her heart. A faint glow left her heart and travelled through Ham's fingers, up his arm and to his head. The light cleared the noises and silenced the loud sounds that he was sensitive to. In relief, Ham held Talula and softly kissed her on the cheek. Talula blushed. It was the first time any man had kissed her besides her father. "So you return," Kalob said. She nodded. Kalob briefed her about the situation. Suddenly, Kalob whirled around as a blast of water blew out of the ocean, followed by a deep mechanical sound. The waters separated before the yacht and spaceships were exposed, and hovered below the wall of water. There were hundreds of them. One craft separated itself and flew over to the yacht until it was eye level to Kalob. Kalob did not move or speak. We noticed in the silence that Kalob nodded his head as if conversing with the hovering ship. We walked up next to Kalob. Talula, Ham, and Nickel followed. They all somehow heard the words of the Bablakri. "We are spectators of this world, which is on its way to destruction. We have seen the spiritual seals open and the war. We have witnessed the silent rising of the evil one's sun. We have watched all sorts of evils permeate the forest by your holy city in the lower lands. God has a cloak of protection over your city, as we could not observe the happenings there. You are most desirous to us. You are a direct link to Loim. The men on this earth are weak and sinful. They follow not Loim, but war." Kalob replied, "It is the final test of mankind on this earth. These humans have evolved even past your realm of reality and are ready for the last test, which comes out of wars. They have proven worthy again and again, and this earth was made for them in their final trial. This would be the hardest even for the strongest, most intelligent man. But few are faithful. Few fight off Satan's lures. You have intruded on God's land and against his laws by being here. You must not know all things, for they have not yet come to pass in your worlds. I command you to leave this world at once. By the power and authority of Loim, I beseech thee." Kalob's voice became almost a lion's roar. "We have taken regard of this warning, but we are mightier and can destroy you in the blink of an eye. Your authority has no weight with us. What can a man do against omnipotent powers?" Deep roars were heard through the ocean's water walls. Talula walked up next to Kalob and they joined hands. Talula motioned with her head to warn the others to hold on to the yacht. Kalob and Talula lifted off the yacht and into the air over the spacecrafts. Talula's heart light glowed crimson. Her light encircled them and grew powerful as they lingered over the foreigners from Bablakri. "You have angered God," Kalob said, "and having challenged him, you are warned one last time to leave this universe or surely die." The craft's engines went to maximum power, and a bolt of light came out of each craft, all focused on Talula and Kalob. Kalob's right arm rose to the square and he said, "God will smite you off this earth." A burst of wind came into the parted waters with such force that the crafts were all crushed like flimsy tin cans from the pressure. Some exploded, forming shock waves felt all the way to New York City. In seconds, All of the crafts were destroyed by the hand of God, except the largest one, which was the mother ship. The ship flew above Tallulah and Kolob and dove straight into the ocean waters beside them, and then out with such an energetic burst, it carried the craft into space, heading home. UFOs from all over the world followed them, leaving mankind. The yacht was destroyed. Ham and Nickel held on to a fragment of the yacht in the water. Went was nowhere to be found. Tallulah flew over the ocean to see if he was adrift somewhere. They could not find him. Auugh. Kolob screamed over the ocean at Went's disappearance. He held out his staff from the middle of the ocean, pointing it to land. He walked on the water. Tallulah joined him as the rest of the warriors roused from the water and walked behind. They came to a dock and planted themselves safely onto land. Tallulah and Ham went into a shanty by the docks. A man sat bewildered behind the counter watching a small TV. The news reported UFO sightings all around the world. "Hey kids, did you see any UFOs flying around the ocean out there? There are people seeing them everywhere. Scary, huh? War of the Worlds." The slightly drunk man held his hand up and wiggled his fingers. They sensed a fear in this man even though he was making light of the sightings. It was everywhere. News, newspapers, and magazines of the exodus of several thousand UFOs, with over half the population of the world viewing the spectacular sight. The fear of an attack was imminent in several worldly countries, and the United Nations gathered to plan a strategy against the flying objects. Tallulah reported to Kolob that the world was in a panic over the sightings. Kolob paid no attention to her as he pulled out the Urim and Thummim and walked to the ocean shore. Alone, he stood by the ocean and waited for guidance for their next mission. Amanda and Seth found the three warriors and talked incessantly about the flying saucer. Nickel shushed them, as they all were worried about Went.